Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to my final video of 2022. This time we're going to be looking back at pretty much all of 2022 post-launch for Gran Turismo 7 to see, well, was it really that bad? Where could they have improved? And kind of just go through everything that we've been given after the launch of the game. Now, I'm not going to cover kind of hotfix updates. I'm going to cover the main content updates. So this will include sort of like the main monthly ones with the cars, kind of what came with it, sort of cafe menus and such. Things like engine swaps and stuff I'm not really going to cover, mainly because they're so hidden away for the majority of people, and it's complete luck what kind of engines you get and stuff, or kind of, you know, the oddball events that aren't in a cafe menu and stuff. So I'm going to mainly discuss the cars, the update overall, and then at the end we'll kind of come to a conclusion of, you know, how did GT7 and Polyphony do after the whole, you know, debacle at release. So yeah, let's check it out and let's go to our first main update. So the first proper content update we got for Gran Turismo 7 after launch was on April 25th, 2022, that being update 1.13. Now this made the game, in my opinion, a lot easier for a lot of players, especially those that may play on controller. The game kind of basically fixed all the cars just spinning out as soon as you put the power down. I feel like at this point Gran Turismo really became much easier, kind of, you know, circuit experiences became a lot easier to get gold on, you know, especially like I said for those that may use controller. Now for me personally, I use both, so if I kind of just want to sit and chill and just play a bit of Gran Turismo, the game became a lot more enjoyable. Most of the time I do use my wheel though, so I didn't get the full benefit of it, but for those that may not be able to, you know, put the money into a rig or a wheel and such, I feel at this point the game became much more easier and accessible for a lot more players, and I feel like that was probably the correct thing to do. Now it featured 3 cars, the Subaru BRZ S21, which to me, look, you can say it what it is. It's just a rebadge with the Toyota, and I believe in game it actually, you know, functions the exact same. It's programmed the same as the Toyota version. It did make it onto my worst cars list. Then we had the Suzuki Cappuccino, which was awesome, especially with its jelly build, and then the real proper car of the pack, which was the Subaru BRZ GT300 from 2021, which I believe Polyphony actually had to patch at one point. Now we also got the inclusion of the 24-hour layout of Spa, which is just kind of a start lane and pit change, nothing major there, but we did actually get our only mission challenge kind of edition post launch, you know, even to this day, which was the Human Comedy, which was 8 1-hour endurance events, and they were absolutely awesome. It's a shame we've not had more of these, and it's a shame you can only get paid out one more time. But this last one here, Lake Maggiore, that was horrible. The AI on that are turned up so bad, they're so aggressive, and it's absolutely ridiculous. You know, I did that event legit and it was an absolute nightmare. Now, yes, for me, update 1.13 was a pretty good update. It was a good starting point, you know. Getting new content at this point in time after all the controversy after release was, you know, a big change, you know, making the game more accessible, adding a few more cars, especially that GT300 and the Suzuki Cappuccino, you know, more key cars in my opinion is a great thing. They're awesome, they're a mainstay in Gran Turismo. So yes, 1.13 for me was a very good addition, if not really, you know, it wasn't the most exciting, you know, but the 24-hour Spa layout, yeah, a bit weird. Now on to the next update that we got, the main content update. May 26th, 2022, update 1.15, and this for me is the kind of Tomahawk killer update. This is where Polyphony eventually got around to properly killing off the Tomahawk for the time being. It did eventually return, but this is the one that killed off that proper, you know, good OG build that we had going there. But yeah, I mean, overall this was again a pretty good update. I'd say honestly the cars really weren't that bad, and one of them's massively grown on me since. So we'll start off with this one here. It did make it on my worst cars list. It was the Suzuki VGT. Yeah, just not a great car in my opinion. It never really found its feet. It kind of sits in sort of no man's land where it's not ridiculously slow, but then it just kind of feels out of place when you do match it with kind of more real world cars. Then we had this one. This is the one that's grown on me, the Roadster Shop Rampage, and I really feel like I need to go back and do a build with it. It did also get its engine put in the game to be able to be swapped in other things. I can't quite remember what car it goes in. I want to say the DeLorean, but I think that's just a little bit off. But yeah, overall a really awesome looking car, a custom machine, obviously based on one of the old Chevys. But yeah, overall absolutely awesome car. Really actually quite good when you do get to using it. I think at first I was a little bit like, meh, okay. But yeah, then we do have the main edition, which was the Toyota hypercar, which kind of filled me for hope that we'd get more hypercars in the future, but we haven't received any so far. This kind of took over as sort of the king of the grind. I remember at Sardinia for the longest time, this was many people's go-to. It's been, you know, nerfed again a million times, just like the Tomahawk, but it's never quite fully disappeared, unlike that Tomahawk. So yeah, very good addition to the game. I actually really like this car, although it doesn't compete with the LMP kind of one cars and such. Yeah, it really wasn't a bad addition. Now, we got a decent amount of content with this update, in all honesty. I felt like it was kind of, you know, quite a chunky update looking back, especially compared to some of the kind of, you know, later on in the year updates, which I will talk about a little bit later. But yeah, really not a bad update. I believe we got 3 menu books, kind of mainly featured around the cars themselves, really. So yeah, let me just talk about them ones. We got these ones. We got the lightweight K-Cup, which was focused around the Cappuccino, which came in the previous update, or well, the key cars in general, you know what I mean. So it did make use of them. We had the VGT, which was absolutely awesome to see, different VGTs, and we had the prototype one. Now, this update also brought back into sport mode online time trials, which have been absolutely awesome. Every 2 weeks they kind of refresh and you get a different time trial. Great addition to see those return. Now, overall, I'd say update 1.15 was yeah, rather quite a sizable update looking back. I think at first, again, it was one of those updates when it first came, I wasn't overly, you know, too bothered. But definitely when it came to making this video and looking back, I really thought, do you know what? Yeah, this was actually a decent update. I feel like it's one of those you have to look back on to realise it was much better than some of those updates that came later on in the year. In my honest opinion, there was some really poor updates. So yeah, 1.15 to me was a very, very good update, especially looking back, and the hypercar in it, still use it to this day, even for Sardinia. So update 1.17 was the next update. Now, this came out on June 23rd, 2022. So just a side note, I did mess up a little bit. So the online sport time trial mode that I said came with 1.15, it didn't come with 1.15, it came with 1.17. So I am just adding this in after the whole editing process. So yeah, my bad. Yeah, so let's crack on with the video. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. So this update featured 3 brand new cars and our first brand new track to the game, that being Watkins Glen. It comes with 2 layouts, it comes with the full layout and the short course, and in my opinion, this was one of the most perfect additions I think I've ever seen in Gran Turismo history. I absolutely love Watkins Glen, the way it drives, the fact that it's not really overly featured in racing games before, and to see it kind of, you know, be thrown in the game was absolutely awesome. So props to Polyphony for getting this track in. In my opinion, it's already up there in my top 5 favourite tracks in all of GT7. Instant favourite. As soon as I drove it, I knew I was going to love it. Especially the short course is just absolutely crazy and just, you know, sets you up for some absolute carnage. So we did also get 3 cars in this update. We had the Ford Roadster from 1932, which sadly again made it onto my worst cars list, mainly because of lack of places to use it and the fact that it doesn't really compete with anything. Then we had the kind of, only a month after the last version, the GT3 or Group 3 version of the Suzuki VGT, which is okay. It only just narrowly missed it out, making it on my worst cars, mainly because, again, it's a bit of a copy-paste job, but it does have more of a use than, say, the standard VGT. You know, I don't really know anyone that really runs that car. And we did get the, obviously, legendary Suzuki Escudo Pikes Peak, which has been disappeared since, I believe, July at this point from the Legends dealer. So with this update, we actually had the inclusion, of extras menus. Now, these are little collections that you do, and you're kind of awarded with either a part or an engine swap ticket. I believe that was their debut in the game as well. I think prior to this update, they did not exist, and they first came in with the kind of extras menus as kind of a set ticket. So you knew you was either going to get an engine or a parts or just a, you know, bog standard 5 or 6 star roulette ticket. So I believe that was their first inclusion. Overall, absolutely absolutely love this update. One of the better ones, mainly for the inclusion of Watkins Glen, which, like I said, has been a fantastic track since it was included. Obviously, the addition of the very much legendary and timeless classic, the Suzuki Escudo Pikes Peak, which is just synonymous with Gran Turismo in my opinion. You know, first appearing in GT2, I believe. I believe it wasn't even a thing until then. But yeah, first appearing in GT2, it's been a mainstay since. It's always been absolutely crazy, and whilst we've still had, you know, other crazy additions like the Tomahawk and stuff, you know, added to the game over the years and coming to Gran Turismo, I feel like this kind of still rules the roost in being one of the most crazy, weird, wacky cars of all time, and it's very, very usable. So yeah, hopefully Polyphony bring this back to the Lens dealer as soon as possible, really. It's been a long time since it's been gone. So update 1.19 was the next major content update, coming on July 28th, 2022. This was kind of the fourth major content update for this game, and I feel like this was kind of the turning point of GT updates turning, well, a little bit sour. This for me is kind of the period where Polyphony kind of just went off and did their own thing. So let's talk about the cars first. We had 3 new cars yet again added to the game, this time being the Maserati A6 GCS-53 Spider. A very awesome classic car. Again, made it on my worst cars list, mainly because of lack of anywhere to really use it, and the fact that there's so many kind of, you know, sort of cars around that time period that could be used. It's just not utilized well enough, and it's been in the game long enough now, as well as its price point and kind of the performance you get. Nothing really kind of mind-blowing. Then we had the Porsche 918 Spider from 2013. Absolutely love this car. For me, it's a timeless classic. I feel like it's, you know, already aging very well. The fact that, you know, hypercars and such have kind of moved on to even more crazier designs, I feel like this one really stands the test of time. You know, you can tell who's made it, but I feel like it'll be, you know, like some of those more, you know, sort of, I guess, legendary supercars and stuff from, you know, the late 80s, early 90s and such, mainly like the F40 and stuff. You feel like it just won't ever look outdated or look out of place when it's kind of paired together with other kind of supercars, hypercars and such. And then we had the Skyline Super Silhouette, the Group 5 version, returning for the first time in 2 decades. Now previously this was in Gran Turismo 2, and it just disappeared off the face of the earth in terms of Gran Turismo, but did finally return. We also got 2 new menu books, this being the Hypercar Parade and the Neo Classic Competition. I actually really enjoyed these, especially the Neo Classic. The Hypercar one not so much. It was kind of sprint based and really not that enjoyable. But yeah, I mean, a very good selection of cars in my opinion. This was kind of sort of the last one to me before Polyphony started really kind of just dropping the ball. For what felt like the longest time, I was still having fun with the game at this point, but you could really see that they weren't focusing where they really should be. You know, the kind of whole thing with sort of events not having the correct kind of payouts, in my opinion, where you just kind of want longer events. You want to be able to earn money in more than kind of free events. Obviously, those free events were post-launch, but for me, they're nothing really that major. I think everybody's kind of knows they're there, so I don't really need to kind of mention them. You know, there weren't menu booked events and stuff, but yeah, I feel like that's really where Polyphony started kind of, you know, forgetting to sort of add things that we wanted, kind of during this update and maybe after. Don't get me wrong, I feel like the kind of Super Silhouette and such sort of overshadowed this update shortcomings, but overall I feel like this is where Polyphony started kind of dipping down and just forgetting, you know, really what the players wanted. However, I do want to give props to them because this is the update in which the race shop was added. So instead of having to go through all the menus and stuff before you started an event, you could essentially buy, you know, ballast, power restrictors and tyres before you jumped in the event, which was a very handy addition. And to be honest, I couldn't imagine the game without it at this point. I don't know how we all survived before that was put into the game. Update 1.20 now, August 27th, 2022. And I need to be honest here, this for me is the update that really started, you know, after it had kind of passed and, you know, the excitement of new cars and, you know, the rallycross track and such kind of, you know, came and went, the few weeks before any other update was really when I kind of started feeling quite sour towards both Polyphony and Gran Turismo 7 as a whole. I felt like this was really kind of a mixed bag in terms of the update. Looking back, it's not too bad, but at the time I just remember being absolutely furious in the fact that yes, they added 3 new layouts, but one of them was just kind of the removal of a chicane, and one of them was just kind of a national layout. They felt really kind of just thrown in there for the sake of it, when I feel like at that point we should have really been getting, you know, proper events and, you know, a proper other track. You know, it just felt really kind of a missed opportunity for Polyphony. So we got 3 new cars in this one. We got the GTO Judge, pretty cool car in all honesty. It's not bad. It's an American muscle car. It's nice to see a classic American muscle car come into the game. We did have the amazing, in my opinion, Porsche Cayman GT4, the road version. Whilst at first I was like, oh great, yeah, another Porsche. I actually ended up, you know, really liking this car. I believe it came 3rd in my favourite cars of 2022, kind of post launch for Gran Turismo 7. Really usable. Really fun to drive. You always feel like you're getting the most out of it, so I really cannot fault that car. Then we also got the McLaren MP4-4, the legendary Formula 1 car driven by Ayrton Senna. Absolutely, you know, astonishing machine, but I feel like it just felt really kind of weird in GT7. I don't know if it's just me, but whilst, you know, once the hype had died down, it costing 8 million and stuff, I feel like I've not really used it in the longest time. But still a great car to have in the game in terms of, you know, the collector's side of things. It's awesome to see proper legendary, you know, race cars make their appearance in the game. Now, on top of this, we did also get this extra little car, the Dior Mangusta, which has just never left the Legends dealer since. You know, it is what it is. It's okay. But yeah, the main kind of thing for me with this update and the main enjoyment that I've had even to this day is the official Barcelona rallycross track. I absolutely love this layout, and in my opinion, this is the saving grace for this update. You know, apart from the cars and stuff, this is kind of the mainstay, and even today it's kind of my go-to sort of rallying track. I really like it. It's a proper official rallycross track. You've got the mix of tarmac and obviously the dirt and stuff. I think it's absolutely awesome. I remember when they did it as a weekly race and just absolutely having the most amount of fun. I've hosted some, you know, really weird races here with like Fiat 500 and such. It's just absolutely incredible. I don't know whether to class it as its own track. I feel like it does kind of count as a new track because it's so different. So I'm going to say it's kind of a unique sort of new track, especially compared to the kind of layouts. It's more than just a layout really, but that's my honest opinion. So yeah, I mean, update 1.20 was kind of a bit of a downturn in form for Polyphony in my opinion. This is when people were really getting vocal about what was wrong with the game, the fact that they're ignoring about the events and stuff, and you know adding more grinding events and stuff like that, things like engine swaps behind roulette tickets, and a lot of that still isn't sorted today. You know, I remember selling cars, people moaning about that, really, you know, vocal about it at this point in time. It just kind of felt like they was happy to add these things in and then kind of forget the quality of life things that we really wanted in the game. And like I said, only a few of them have been fixed or kind of sorted out so far. So yeah, mixed feelings about 1.20 looking back. So update 1.23 next, and if 1.20 started kind of me having negative feelings towards Polyphony and Gran Turismo 7, 1.23 definitely put that nail in the coffin. This for me is the worst update of the bunch. Whilst we did get the very kind of awesome and unique VW IDR, the Pikes Peak machine, it's still an EV and absolutely useless. Along with that, we've got 2 other cars, the Silvia S14, the kind of pre-facelift model, and the absolutely awful, my worst car of kind of post-launch 2022, the Porsche VGT Spider. Oh, how I absolutely hate that thing. In all honesty, after the first day of kind of covering everything within the update, I then kind of sat there and realised I had nothing else to do for another month, and I began to feel really kind of hateful towards this game and really kind of hateful towards Polyphony, which is something I never thought I'd really do, especially considering I've loved this series for the longest time. 1.23 for me was an absolute disaster. Again, Polyphony just kind of ignored all our issues and everything we said just fell on deaf ears. Looking back, there was only really one useful car in this update, and that was the Sylvia. The fact that you can build it rather quite well for 1.23, but other than that, it was terrible. We did have the addition of one more menu book, that being menu book 45, the Sylvia Sisters, which was done in about 20 minutes, not even that, about 15 minutes I think. Absolutely terrible. It was a bunch of kind of free lap events at free tracks. Yeah, really kind of uninspired, and it felt like that's what this update really was absolutely uninspired. Now I need to kind of give you a bit of a, I guess, reason to why I hate the Porsche VGT Spider so much. So Porsche actually leaked it 2 weeks early, so we knew it was coming to the game, but we did expect to be compensated by that with maybe another car that they already had in the works, and that did not happen. Essentially, yeah, we got absolutely, yeah, I can't really say what I want to say, but yeah, we basically just got told by Polyphony, this is what you're getting and that's it. And yeah, it was just really not a good update for me, probably the worst of the bunch. Luckily this is the lowest point for Gran Turismo 7 in my honest opinion, but yeah, absolutely awful. For me, it really put the nail in the coffin. At this point in time I was thinking, that is me done with GT7 content. I'm going to move on to the next thing, maybe come back in a few months when things have picked up. The only really saving grace of the Porsche VGT Spider was the fact that at one point you could put it on dirt tyres and it was a really funny glitchy rally car, but that's since been patched out, so now again I absolutely hate it and it has no use for me, and I just wish that car wasn't in the game. Please Polyphony, delete it. So there we have it. 1.23 in my opinion was absolutely terrible. Another month, another update. This time October 20th 2022 saw the release of update 1.25, and in my opinion this is kind of the last of the really disappointing updates. I think most of us will know what's coming next, but October's update for me was again just a missed opportunity. Still Polyphony completely forgetting about what we really want, and whilst this did actually feature, I believe, the Fuji 10 lap event, which was very, very good, the payout kind of mixed with the fact that it was just a little bit on the short side kind of just ruined what could have been a fantastic addition to this game. Now we actually got 4 cars with this update, as well as kind of 3 liveried specials. We had the Nissan GTR Nismo GT3 2018, and whilst most people say that's kind of a copy paste car, it does actually update essentially one of the oldest Group 3 cars in the game. The fact that the other GTR that we did have was a 2013 model, it was a massively sort of outdated at that point, so in my opinion I don't actually mind it. Then we also have the very surprising Maserati Marek SS from 1980, a fantastic addition, another car that just missed out on my kind of top 5, mainly because it was such a surprise. Like, I really enjoyed this car for what it was, and fully upgraded, it's actually a bit of a beast. We also got the very rare Skyline 2000 GTR, excellent addition, but in my opinion not the most usable. Looks fantastic though, and the Mazda Roadster NRA ND 2022. Whilst that to me is essentially a copy paste car, I actually didn't put it in my worst list, mainly because it featured so heavily in the league that I created, so I really kind of don't mind that car. It's better than the S version. This also included a final menu book for this year. This was the Historic Sports Car Masters, again focusing around kind of just showing off all the classics in the game, and I actually really liked this one for what it was, more of a kind of parade of classic cars within GT7. Now I did say we had 3 special edition liveried cars. These were the Mazda Spirit Racing cars, you know, so again I've kind of included them in the background footage. There was the RX-7 Concept, the Group 3, which got a special edition livery. They kind of come in as their own buyable cars as well. You can't just kind of put the livery out the showcase, you had to buy the car to really have that one with the livery. It was really kind of weird how they did that. Then we had the Group 4 Mazda, that got one, and the NRA got one. Overall for me it was just a bit of a disappointing update. So for me, this was kind of like the third really poor update in a row, with everything we were complaining about just falling on deaf ears. The game just not feeling the same at this point. It felt like Polyphony just weren't bothered about listening to their community, and whilst that kind of still stands today, it has kind of been rectified a little bit. But yeah, just a really poor update, a massive missed opportunity overall. So yeah, not a perfect update. So into November next, November 24th to be exact, 2022, update 1.26 arrives. 3 new cars. This time I actually really liked the cars, I can't lie. There wasn't a bad one in there. We had the BMW M2 competition, which at first I wasn't really bothered about until I kind of got it tuned for Le Mans, and then all of a sudden that's became one of my mainstays. Really enjoyed that car. We had the another Silvia, which, look, okay, you can complain, but in my opinion it's the better S14, the facelifted model, more aggressive, brilliant for 700 pp event again at Le Mans. And then we had the always legendary Sierra Cosworth, or the RS500 model. Excellent addition in my opinion, such an underrated car. A lot of kind of designers kind of go for the Escort over it, and I feel like the Sierra kind of gets forgotten about these days. So to see that actually coming Gran Turismo 7 was a great addition. Really awesome classic car just for what it did when it was out on track, you know, back in the day. Brilliant addition to the game, so I really cannot complain about the cars. But well, that was not all. This was a brilliant update in my opinion. Whilst it isn't perfect, it still had a lot of inclusions that we really wanted. We had a brand new track for the first time since Watkins Glen, that being Road Atlanta. Excellent addition yet again. You know, at least both of the kind of new tracks, or maybe the 3 if you want to count the rallycross track at Barcelona, have been absolutely incredible. Really top-notch additions. Absolutely love this track. It became again another mainstay. Really love the flow of it, kind of, you know, the toughness is going up the hill and it's like a blind bend and then you sweep back down. Yeah, just absolutely awesome track. We also had the addition of 25th anniversary content. We had a special edition car, we had the viewers campaign, we had the GT World Series finale, or the finals, whatever you want to call them. It was just really a good time for the community, and I feel like this is where a lot of people kind of came back to the game, even if they'd only just left with the previous update, and really got some enjoyment. There was also selling cars finally came to the game in a much better way than expected, with cars kind of fluctuating in valuation and stuff like that. So as you can see here, we've got the 25th special edition liveried Red Bull, I believe this is the X 2019 model. Really good addition. Everybody got it for free. It was a very good grinding build as well, because it was obviously free to everyone, so everyone could do it. We also had 2 special timed events. Hopefully Polyphony keeps this as a running thing, not just for the 25th anniversary, and kind of brings back seasonal events. Really enjoyed these 2 events. They were excellent, you know, put together. Really kind of a bit of a quick blast, but really fun. The Spa one, you know, revolving around strategy and the rain and stuff, and the Pikes Peak one with the Pikes Peak at Willow Springs was just absolutely nuts. So yeah, really enjoyed those events. So yeah, overall, update 1.26 was absolutely fantastic, you know, bringing in features that we wanted, bringing in kind of sort of seasonal events and stuff, so hopefully they do keep them up. 3 very good cars, the Sierra Cosworth, a new track. I felt like this is really what Polyphony should be doing, you know, at least every 2 or 3 months, giving us a proper chunky update and, you know, really listening to the players. You know, it felt like for once Polyphony had kind of listened to what we wanted in the game, and, you know, they honestly didn't disappoint. Everything that was in this update was, you know, top notch. We also had, you know, like I did mention as well, the viewers campaign, which was really awesome. And I felt people were just kind of getting together and just watching the World Series. I had like my PSN group chat going, and, you know, it was all discussing about how ridiculous some of the crashes and that were. It was just really a positive time for the game, and I feel like it couldn't have come at a better time, especially with kind of the Christmas period coming up. So 1.26, best update of the bunch. Hopefully Polyphony learn from this and get that momentum going. I feel like in the next update they did, but they kind of just, you know, dropped off, but it was kind of to be expected. So let's go on to the final one. So the final main content update for 2022 for GT7 came on December 15th, 2022, obviously, which was update 1.27. This is the update that we are currently running on within the game. Now, what I mentioned about Polyphony kind of keeping that momentum going, I feel like they kind of successfully did it. So the turnover time from this update, from the last update to this update, was really a lot shorter. I didn't expect a big chunky update in terms of kind of content. I feel like the last update brought quite a bit to the game. However, I did not expect a car selection as good as this one, in all honesty. So we had 5 cars in this update, and they were all absolutely fantastic for what they were. We obviously had the inclusion or the early access of the Ferrari VGT, which was given out free for the kind of people that answered day 4 of the viewers campaign correctly. A very good VGT in my opinion, really not that bad. I'm not usually a biggest fan, and in my opinion that is the best VGT post launch this year, especially after the disappointment of the likes of the Suzuki VGT and that absolutely horrendous Porsche Spider, the EV nightmare. It actually had a proper engine in it, the Ferrari. It sounds brilliant, it sparks up like crazy, especially Daytona at night. Just go and watch it in the replays there, it's fantastic. So yeah, really not a bad VGT. We also had the likes of the Bugatti Chiron, which is absolutely, you know, whilst it's terrible in its stock form in my opinion, once fully upgraded that thing is absolutely incredible. Really awesome hypercar. We also had finally the C8 Stingray, you know, come into the game and finally update the Corvette roster. Really enjoyed that car. Whilst it's not maybe my personal favorite, to finally have it in the game and, you know, see some proper up-to-date models coming into the game was fantastic. Then we also had the legendary rally car, the Celica ST205 rally car. Brilliant to see that in the game. I honestly love that thing. It's so good at 600 and 700 pp events, and overall it's just a, you know, a legend in terms of Gran Turismo. It's kind of a mainstay car, so great to see it return. And finally, we had the Alfa Romeo Giulia GTA M. In my opinion, one of the best, if not the best, road car in the game currently. I absolutely love that thing. I didn't think much would beat the Cayman GT4. However, I have just never driven a car so perfect, whether it's upgraded or bog standard. It's just such a great addition. Fantastic selection of cars. Events weren't very good. In fact, they were still, you know, even for me now, quite bugged. But a solid update to end the year in terms of cars. So there we have it. That is every update post-launch to GT7 covered in terms of kind of the main content ones. So overall, what is my opinion on the post-launch support for GT7? Well, I think first we need to kind of talk about its original release. It was a nightmare. It was a complete disappointment. It was a massive 180 from what we were kind of expecting. The fact that it had a number on the title just felt really kind of a throw, you know, a smack in the face. But I genuinely think, especially towards the end of the year, Polyphony have kind of found their momentum. You know, we've had 2 good updates on the trot, whilst, you know, the December one was much shorter in terms of its turnover time. I feel like that selection of cars alone kind of warrants that update. I think they're all fantastic. You know, the November update was brilliant. The 25th anniversary stuff really brought people together. We've finally got selling cars. I think towards the end of the year, Polyphony do have the momentum in their favour, and I really think and hope to God that they, you know, really build upon that and keep it going for 2023 and just don't let off, you know, don't let your, you know, foot off the pedal for 2023. Honestly, Polyphony, please. You know, that doesn't take away from the fact that those 3 updates on the trot were just really tiresome, and it felt like Polyphony just did not bother, did not care, didn't want to bother listening to the community as a whole. You know, they were really disappointed, and honestly, it was times like them when I just wanted to just walk away from this game and just go elsewhere and focus my time in a game where, you know, although I've got a massive personal connection to the series, where, you know, maybe the developers will listen to criticisms of the fans and work and build on it. So hopefully we never go back to those dark times. Overall, I think the content's been good. I don't necessarily think there's been enough of it, and I still think they have a lot of things to iron out, especially in terms of, you know, events and fixing the pay rate so it's, you know, kind of on the same level everywhere. Maybe, you know, fixing the custom race payouts and such so we've got more freedom. But overall, not too bad. But I'm really hoping 2023 is the year where things really turn around for Gran Turismo 7, and I hope Polyphony, you know, take everything on board that everybody's been saying and smash it out. So thank you so much for 2022. That's it from me. I'll see you in the new year. For me, this is just the beginning for this channel. See you in 23.